Welcome to the Birth Abroad podcast. My name is Megan Jennings, and I'm honored to host mothers who have come here to share their overseas childbirth stories. From fertility journeys to postpartum and beyond, this podcast is meant to hold space for women all over the world to share their unique experiences with the challenge of becoming a mother away from one's home country. Let's get in today's episode. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the show. This will be part 2 of Mary's episode. Part 1 aired earlier this week, and if you have not heard it yet, I would advise that you go back and give it a listen. But in today's episode, I will again just issue a little bit of a trigger warning. We do talk about early pregnancy loss. A couple instances of early pregnancy loss in this episode. So if you're maybe not in a position of wanting to hear stories like that, maybe skip this episode and come back to it at a later point in time when you feel a little more comfortable. Otherwise, I would recommend that if you have any kind of connection to having children in Germany or pursuing IVF abroad, give this episode a listen because Mary does talk a lot about the process more in this episode, in addition to what she talked about in her first one. So without giving any more else away, I give you guys the conclusion of Mary's story. So now, do you want to tell us about your journey to having a sibling for Audrey?
Yes, sure. So when Audrey was 1 already, we started thinking about a sibling. My husband is the only child. His mom is an only child, so he never had siblings. He never had uncles and aunts. And I live in Germany alone, which means I am offering Audrey a life that maybe she will stay alone all her life. And that makes me even more aware how important it is to take care of myself, because I know if something happens to us, she's completely alone. So when she was 1, I started rushing through the things. I said, we can't leave it like that, Philip. We have to just get a second baby, because I have to make this peace inside me to know that Audrey is not alone. So we started with a second cycle with the ICSI treatment, and again I got this overstimulation, but this time even worse, because I had another doctor. Not that I changed my doctor, but the clinic offered me another doctor who just pushed through the hormones, and she said, okay, let's do like 7 days, not longer. And my body reacted very strongly again to all the hormones. And afterwards, I was even in worse condition than I was with Audrey, like on our first cycle. And now I had to go to hospital actually, because I was even worse. But I had a baby at home and I had no help, so I had to come home and go through this pain and everything alone. And it took me like 3 months to recover after this small surgery of collecting eggs, and we didn't transfer the eggs right away. And we had 13 embryos at that time.
Oh, wow.
13 embryos, can imagine. 2 of them were not that of a good quality, so they decided to throw them away, but they left 11 good quality, not genetically tested embryos. So we did 1 transfer, nothing happened, and on the second transfer, I got pregnant again. And this time around, I was so sure that my body is going to go through the pregnancy without any problem, because I already had 1 pregnancy, which was very successful, and it was the best time of my life. So I did not even let myself think of the option of miscarrying or going through complications. And that is something that I can't forgive myself, because I did not prepare myself for what was to come. So after the pregnancy was confirmed, I had to go to an ultrasound a couple of weeks after. I went to my ultrasound and we saw the baby heartbeat. But this is the moment where I really believe that we in our hearts, like a mom, knows better than anything else. When I saw the heartbeat, I got this weird feeling in my heart that something is not the same, because I remember every ultrasound of Audrey. I met Audrey when she was only 8 cells, and I have been in more ultrasounds than any regular pregnancy, like pregnant women go through. So I know every single ultrasound, and I know her heart rate and how she developed. So this time around, when I saw that, I knew in my heart something doesn't look right. And my doctor, she made a pause and she said, Mary, you know what? I have a feeling like, even though we have a heartbeat, but I think this baby is not developing the way I would want it. It stays behind for 4 days. And either this is just a tiny baby or we have a problem here. So you have to come again in 2 weeks and we will see. And I was not prepared at all for that news at all. And I remember I had even a present for my doctor for that day, because I was so sure on my ultrasound in the clinic they're gonna say everything is fine and you can go to your normal doctor already. So I brought this present, and she just asked me if I want to do a further test to find out what the reason was, and I said yes. And I think that was the other mistake I made. So I rushed out from the room. I never gave that present to my doctor. I did not want to hear anything about that, and I worked so hard in my head to not think of the embryo as a baby. You know what I mean? Because I understood if I think of it as a baby, something is going to happen with me. And back then, Audrey was uh, 1 years, 3 months old. And she was at home, and as I told you, she was so fussy. I did not even have time to cry or think about my problem. The only thing I could do is to call another doctor and run to another doctor a week after to see if that baby is still there or not, or to hear at least a second opinion. So I went to another doctor, and they said they see a heartbeat, and as they don't know when the fertilization took place, they can't say if this baby is staying behind or it develops normally. But my doctor said it can be a normal baby, so she can't say anything to me, but the heartbeat was there. So another week after, when I went to my doctor, they said they don't see heartbeat anymore. So it just stopped developing. And my clinic was kind enough, they offered me to go through the DNC in the clinic and not in a hospital. And they asked me for the test, and I said yes. So I went through the DNC, and that was the only time when I was alone, just alone in the room. Before that, I did not have a chance, even 5 minutes, to stay alone with myself and just cry. And I remember after the surgery, I just could not stop. I just realized what happened, and I just realized that it is all over again, and that baby is not inside me anymore, and I can't think of it as a baby anymore. And that was the only time when I was alone. I did not even realize what was going on. I just could not stop crying, and it hurt me so bad. But as I told you, I am like a emotionally stronger person in our relationship. So I didn't want to break my husband's heart, because I know if I would come out with tears and sad face, he wouldn't be able to deal with that. I knew that. So I knew that I'm gonna just change my face now, go home, and the next lay down, maybe sleep or not. And then when I talked to my mom and to other people, to our friends, I tried to open up, like I don't know what I was waiting for from them, but the thing that I was not waiting, like I didn't want them to tell me, is that it's not even a baby, it was too early, that I am exaggerating and I shouldn't be sad, and everyone has been through miscarriage in their life, and people go even through worse things. So they made my problem seem so small, and I started thinking that maybe I am exaggerating again, so I just shut down. I stopped talking about that to people. I started carrying this pain silently in my heart. And what happened the next 5 months after the miscarriage, every single time I had to get my period, I got like contractions, normal, really, and no bleeding at all. Like I was like the way like I was giving birth or something. And first I didn't understand the pain. I was like, this is weird, like because I couldn't breathe, and I was like, this is like I am giving birth or something. So we ran to my doctor. They looked like they checked me up. No one could understand what is going on with me. For the next 5 months, it kept happening every single month, and I would just go through this pain for 3 days. And we had to seek for help. Now for Audrey, because I could not deal with Audrey anymore. Not that I couldn't deal with her, but I knew that with my mental state and everything, I can't have, like, I was failing her again as a mom. I couldn't be there the way I wanted to be because I was always shut in my head, inside my head and trapped there and could not leave this pain. And everything got even worse when our test results came. So I went to my doctor and she was like, "Yo, your test results came now, and your baby did not survive because it had trisomy 16. It's a genetic failure." And without asking any further questions, she said it was a boy. And uh, this was like the breaking. I can't explain you even what I felt. Like I worked so much to treat that embryo as an embryo without a form, without a shape, without a face, without gender, to make things better for me. And just with one snap, that was a baby boy. I was mom of a boy who never came, and it had a face, uh, and it happened all in 1 second. Like all this, like my whole world turned around. And if I thought losing this miscarrying part was hard on me, now this part, when I already knew what I lost, it was even harder. And not because I wanted to have a boy, no, it wasn't like that. It just was like now it was not, it had a form, it had a shape, it had a name already in my head, kind of, like it was so hard. And they send us to another genetic test, of course, to see if that genetic problem came from us. And I was sitting in that room. Audrey was already by her daycare first time. And then when that consultant started going through the questions, I just realized what happened to me, because even back then I did not have a time to cry, which is crazy to say when you have a baby and you want to cry, and the baby, like, your child does something crazy, and then your attention draws to your child all the time, or she does something funny and you're in the middle of crying and she does something funny, or she's about to hurt herself. You're like kind of all the time you are with your baby. And nights when I theoretically should have times she wasn't sleeping, so I couldn't even take time at night for me to cry out or to think about what happened. So I was sitting in this room and consultant started going through the questions, and I just realized what really happened. I just realized that I can't cry. Audrey is not there. And I fell into a hysterical cry. Like I cried probably 2 hours there and sobbing, and she couldn't do anything. She just said she should let me just cry, and she just didn't take other people who were waiting in the waiting room. She just let me cry for 2 hours there, and she said we should start with this genetic test because anyway she thinks nothing. We didn't have anything, and I don't know. That was very weird. But after 5 months, I decided to go to driving school because first time during this years, I decided to do something that has nothing to do with pregnancy, with babies, with job, with family, like things that even though you enjoy doing, but you're forced to do, it's not for you, but it's something that you have to do. And I remember I took my first class and I was sitting with 18-year-old kids in a room. And I felt so good at that moment about myself. I was like, wow, you haven't been like without baby for such a long time. And actually you haven't done anything just because you want to do that or enjoy doing that for almost, like, I don't know, as long as I could remember myself. And you know what happened? I came home and I got my period. Just normal period.
No crazy pain?
No pain and with normal bleeding, because before I would just get pain without any bleeding, and no one could explain why I'm not bleeding and what's going on with my body. And that was when I realized what was going on. It was not because I had any kind of problem after miscarriage. It had nothing to do with miscarriage. It just had to do with my brain, with my mental health, just because my body and my brain did not do good. And first time after long, long years, I just did something selfish, something just for me and no one else.
And it's interesting that you use the choice of words in saying it was selfish, because I I I believe that when we take care of ourselves, we're actually making ourselves better for our children and for our families. So in that sense, it's not selfish, it's an investment. When we invest in ourselves as individuals, we are able to give so much more back to the people in our family. It's so important. But like you said, we're told these things all the time by society. Oh, you should practice self-care and stuff, but it's so easy to forget, you know?
No one teaches us like just take time, just sit down and do nothing because you don't owe anyone anything.
Yeah.
And that is okay. It's not selfish. They just say it's selfish to take 5 minutes time, especially when you're a mom.
Have you guys done another transfer since the loss?
Yes, we have done. So we waited, like after our loss, we waited almost a year, and with that, we did another transfer, and that ended up again in miscarriage, unfortunately.
Oh no.
So, but this time around, I think I was more prepared, and even though it was a little bit bigger, and like I went for my first ultrasound, and my clinic said everything is perfect, everything looks good, and that baby on the same stage was even bigger than Audrey was at the same time, because I have all the ultrasounds in my head. So the clinic gave me like this congratulation present that like I am free to go to my doctor now and get this. In Germany we call it a Mutterpass, which is like mother's book when they register your baby. So, and then I came home, everything was perfect, and I had a lot of like, I know my body, okay, when you go through this procedure, you get to know your body so good already. So after a transfer, approximately a couple of days after the transfer, you already know if you're pregnant or not because you already know your body that good. You don't have to even wait for a blood test. At least it was for me. So I came home after the ultrasound. We had the heartbeat. I had this picture of the baby. I was so excited that I kept myself saying, what, do not exaggerate now. You don't want the same thing to happen to you than like the previous time. And then I made an appointment on my ninth week, I think, pregnancy. So I had to go to my doctor. And then I noticed like that my body is not growing anymore. Like I noticed that I am getting a lot more energy than I normally did, that like my body is not growing, my belly is not growing anymore. And I was like, maybe this is a good thing. Maybe because I am like further already in my pregnancy, so this all, because when you have morning sickness, then after a certain period of time, it starts going away, which I never had. I never had the morning sickness, but I still had this fatigue and exhaustion and everything. And I was like, maybe because you're now further away in your pregnancy, and that's why it is coming back. So I was at my doctor's office. I was sitting in the waiting room, and it hit me like I knew that this is not okay. And I was like, oh God, I just want to stay in this minute, just knowing that I am pregnant. I don't want to go to that room and find out that it's over, because I don't know what to do with that information. I'm not ready. I just want to sit in this moment and think that I'm still pregnant. And then, of course, I went to my doctor's office, and she did the ultrasound, and she looked at me. She said, Mary, this does not look good at all. Like, we have no heartbeat anymore. So I had to go to hospital the same day, and they checked me again, and they said they are thinking it's even like twins. It's not even one, but they're thinking that one of the embryos developed and it tried to turn into like twins, when they share, when an embryo shares and becomes twins, and something went wrong during this time. I don't know how to call the term in English, when it starts separating.
When it splits, I think is what we
not
say.
share, splits,
Yeah.
exactly. And something went wrong, and it did not make it. And so I had to go through the DNC again and through the same things again. But this time around, as Audrey was in kindergarten, I had time to come home and cry like for 4 hours straight, and the next day is the same thing. And that went on for a week. But just because I let myself cry, I did not have these physical issues anymore. I was like, of course, I was devastated and heartbroken, but it was nothing like the first time. Nothing. And then after half a year after that, we decided to go for our last embryos, like in the middle, like between the first one and the second pregnancy. We did transfers, which did not go well. Like, I just got my period, nothing happened. So last November, I had the transfer of my last two uh, embryos, and then I got pregnant again. And this time around, I was like, okay, you know what? You're not going to think about that anymore. Like, you know how this is going to end. Like, the chances that this is going to turn into an actual baby are so low. But of course, I didn't want to think that that will happen the third time in a row. And this time, I went to I got the confirmation from the lab test, and after a week, I started spotting. I called to my doctor. I said that I'm spotting, and she said that's nothing probably that happens during the pregnancy. And I said I don't have a good feeling. I want to come to the office and I want you to check and see if this is okay. I don't think this is normal. So I went to the doctor, and they took a blood test and everything, and they saw that they can't find the embryo anymore. Not embryo, but the fetus. They couldn't find it anywhere, and they thought maybe like it's outside of the uterus.
Yeah, like an ectopic.
And exactly. So my doctor sent me home and asked me to see, like she said, I have to be aware if I get like severe pains.
Right.
I have to rush to the hospital, because that means maybe I had inside how it is called, internal bleeding or something, and my hours can be counted. I think that was the time when I really realized that, like, first time in my life, I realized that my life is under danger, and my daughter is not even 3, and I'm missing out so much. I'm just trapped in this whole pregnancy thing, and I actually can die. just because I want to have another baby and I'm not even appreciating probably the one that the God gave us already. And I'm rushing into a pregnancy that I am not even prepared for because my daughter is not far enough, like to give me, how to say, to be independent enough from me so I can take care of the second baby. And now I put my life under danger, and who knows what will happen to me, and if this whole thing is actually worth it. And I think this was the first time that I did not even think about the baby that I'm losing, but I was just concentrated on myself, which may sound again selfish, but there is one human being who is 3 years old and the second human being is 30 years old, and I need that baby, like I need my daughter as much as she needs me. I didn't even tell my mom I had 3 miscarriages. Like, my mother-in-law doesn't know. Like, no one knows that we have been through 3 miscarriages already, because we are like that with my husband. We go through things silently, and I had to work on myself so much, and that was the point when my whole brain shifted. And I understood that I didn't lose a baby, I lost an embryo, and I didn't lose it, it just didn't develop. It was like that. And I read a good book. I don't know if you heard about this author. He's called Michael Newton.
Okay.
You know him? He is a hypnotherapist who has a whole institute in Chicago. And he goes with his team and makes this hypnotherapy on people. And they have done a huge study. I would advise, if you haven't read it, I would just totally recommend it. And that book helped me so much. And it's like it became like kind of a Bible for me, I would say. It has nothing to do with religion, but it's like a book I turn to every time I'm going through something hard. Because, in our modern society, we are taught if something bad happens to you, then you're getting punished for something, right?
Yep.
And I think this is the thing that bothers us the most, because when something happens to us, we always think, what have I done? So I understand now that I had to go through these things because I had to become the person I am today. I had to find, I have been a person who was scared of everything, who was so insecure. And if I wouldn't go through my miscarriages, I would still be that insecure person. But now I'm so much stronger than I was before. And I know to appreciate my daughter, my husband, my parents. And through the loss, I learned to love even more. You know what I mean?
Yes, I
And
do.
think that I am being punished every single minute of my life, because I am not, and no one is. And even if this book is not the complete truth, I can accept it. But if it is going to help me to deal with my situation, at least to not beat up myself just because I am going through something hard, then I am going to read that book over and over again.
It's all about perspective and being able to just make sense of it all.
Exactly. And I'm saying it doesn't have to be the truth, but it helped me at least
Right.
through these things, because I was asking myself the whole time, why us? Why? We are such like my husband is the kindest person in this world, okay? The softest, the kindest. He never smoked, he never drank, he never did drugs, he never did anything. And me as well. And we are going through an infertility. We are fighting to get pregnant. And we had this desire in our hearts from the very beginning. And then we found out we can't. So why would we get that desire in our hearts if it wasn't supposed to happen to us? Maybe because we had to fight again, like, to appreciate Audrey more, because Audrey will need that appreciation later in her life.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she chose a way for her in the future that she needs parents who will give everything.
Yes, yeah. That's a beautiful way to look at it. So have you guys decided to not pursue IVF anymore, at least for the time being?
As I told you in the beginning, I'm a very stubborn person. So we started. If you think I'm gonna give up,
God bless you.
I'm
Good
not,
for you.
because I always say there is a reason why God put this desire inside my heart.
Yep.
If I wasn't supposed to have the second baby, this desire wouldn't burn in my heart so bad. So I'm gonna get that second baby here.
Hey, I had two more questions that I wanted to ask. You mentioned earlier that Germany does not do genetic testing of embryos. Is that like, is that a legal thing? Is it an ethical thing? Or at any point in your journey, because you said you've already had three losses, have you now like qualified for more extensive genetic testing so that you don't have to keep going through this?
So I will try to explain you as much as I can, because I asked my doctor. I am just like asking her all the time. Every single appointment we have, I am asking her if there has been a change in the rules. But it's a legal thing. In Germany, they are not allowed to do any genetical tests in the embryos. At least that is what my doctor keeps telling me, because Germany is very religious, and they don't want, like,
Yep.
it to a point when people can already decide what kind of gender they want, or uh, like genetic test also means excluding Down syndrome babies.
Yes. Okay.
Down syndrome babies are the ones who can uh, be born and live normally. Like in Germany, they don't look at it in a strange way. They look at it as a part of a society. It doesn't count to be like a sickness or um, a problem that a person can't survive. So the reason why they don't do any genetical test, because they don't want to exclude babies who may have a Down syndrome, and these embryos wouldn't get a chance to live, which I think it is a little bit exaggeration. But Germans do love to exaggerate either one side or the other. And after having three laws, I'm getting already angry, and I think I am allowed to be angry on that. Um, I agree if they don't do a test on gender or eye color, because it's like being a god, playing a god. I can understand that, but there should be some limits.
Mm. The thing that's frustrating is like they could pass laws that allow for the embryos to be screened and then like at least disqualify the ones that have known terminal, like not compatible with life genetic abnormalities, you know? So like why can't they at least do that? Whereas, okay, so they're not going to reveal the gender and they won't reveal if the baby has an abnormality that is still survivable. But like, you said your first one had trisomy 16, I think. Like they could have screened for that and known.
Exactly. I didn't have to go through that. If they would screen before, they would see that all 13 embryos of ours have no quality. They won't survive, and I wouldn't go through these transfers. I wouldn't go through these miscarriages, through this pain and mental problems. We wouldn't spend that much money,
Right.
because every transfer afterwards we had to pay ourselves, and it is, of course, it's financial as well for us. It's hard.
So that was like, so my next question actually is a two-part one, and you touched upon it just right now. How much of any of this was covered by social insurance versus something that you guys had to pay yourselves?
I made a video. Actually, my last video was about that, the cost of the infertility treatment in Germany. And a lot of people do not know in Germany that if you are a German citizen, or you are a person living in Germany with a unlimited residence permit, and of course you are married, then your insurance is going to help you. And most of the insurances help with 50%. This is what happened with us when we were going for Audrey, and we were back then by another insurance company, and they helped us with 50%, but for cycle. And cycle means only these basic tests and hormonal therapy, the fertilization of the eggs, and one transfer right after they collected the eggs.
So
Like
a fresh transfer then, not a
fresh,
frozen one. Right.
not one. Afterwards, if you have, of course, more than 2 embryos and you want to freeze them, which is this cryocycle, then that is already something private and you have to pay everything yourself. But insurance pays for a cycle and they pay 3 cycles. And after third cycle, if you fail it or if you want more kids, then you have to pay yourself. But now we changed to another insurance and it is called AOK. Okay. Okay. Yes. And they pay additional 25% because we are in AOK plus. We pay a little bit more, but then we get like in total 75% paid for cycle, which is a huge help. And then depending from the region you live, you may get help from the state. For example, we live in Saxony, and this is a very family-friendly Bundesland state. And they gave us again like around 400 euros budget for this treatment, which is again a lot of help. But like cryo, these frozen ones and transfers and everything, then you have to pay yourself. But that's not a problem because at least, like I know in USA, you have to pay like 15,000 or
Yeah,
something.
thousands and thousands and thousands.
I know, and I am so blessed. Like I feel so blessed that we are in Germany, even though they don't have this genetic test, and I complain about that, and I feel like I am such like I don't appreciate. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah,
When
I
I
think you feel ungrateful.
I'm grateful, exactly. But then on the other side, I know that the state and the insurance helps us a lot. So we have to be grateful for that. Just it's not easy. We're going now through the third cycle now. We just started with the hormones already. And I'm not scared about the hormones. I'm not scared about the injections. I'm not scared about the surgeries or again over stimulation or all the pain that I will go through. I'm just scared that these miscarriages may happen again. But I know now I am better prepared and I won't be, at least I know I won't be in a shock now.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to be a mom so much. I have a feeling second time around it's even like selfish again because I made so many mistakes with Audrey. Second baby feels like a chance again to do everything this time better.
Yep.
And I think everything together. If I wouldn't have this experience in my life, I would just want to have a second child. I'm scared of unknown. I don't know what to wait. I know that it will be hard, but the desire to have another baby and to make this family complete is so much stronger.
Yeah.
Is so much stronger. I know I can make a break, but I can never stop trying because then I will feel that I failed.
So I have to ask you, I know you've already shared some great advice, but do you have any other advice you might give to someone who's going through something similar, um, especially doing it in a foreign country, away from your family? Like, what would you say to someone in a similar situation?
So I will say to any person out there who is going through something like this, if you find a comfort somewhere which is controversial to what you knew before or what the society tells you, then take it. Take it. In the end of the day, you matter and your mental health matters and you have to deal with that. And whatever makes you feel better about yourself or relieved or helps you to go through pain a little bit easier. It will never be easy, but it will be a little bit easier. Then take that way. Even if it's eating chocolate, just go for it. I don't
Yeah.
know. Like there are people, you know, we all find it shouldn't be only religion. It was just an example from my life and the words that stuck in my head and my heart. We all think we're being punished, but God loves us unconditionally. He can't punish us. There is no punishment for you. There are just certain lessons for you that you have to go through to love more, to be a better person or better version of yourself. I'm not talking about being holy or kind to others or something, but better version of yourself.
So that brings us to the end of Mary's story. And Mary, I just would like to send to you again my heartfelt thank you for being willing to open up to us and share your stories with us. I know you have not told these stories in their entirety before, so I feel very honored to be able to have had this conversation and to share your wisdom and your experiences with our listeners, because I can assure you, you're not alone in this, and there are so many other women that are either going through this currently or will be going through it in the future and will be able to learn and take away so much from what you've shared with us today. So, as I end all of my episodes with, if you have a similar story where you have pursued fertility treatments or IVF abroad, or you have a pregnancy and birth story that you would like to share from abroad, or you've gone through an interesting postpartum or breastfeeding experience or what have you from another country, I would welcome you to either email me at thebirthabroadpodcast@gmail.com or send me a message on my Instagram page, which is just at thebirthabroadpodcast, and I would love to talk to you more about it then. Otherwise, stick around next week and I'll be bringing you guys another episode then. Thanks again for listening. Bye-bye.